Chapter 29. Stones, Lies, and the Road to Rothmere. Derek, Isabel, and Tunga walked side by side along the dirt road to Rothmere, surrounded by sparse vegetation, consisting of large, isolated trees resembling baobab, bushes, and grasslands. The oppressive humidity began to lift, and the widening path, carved with deep cart ruts, signaled the approach of what passed for civilization in this world. Despite the recent clash with the band of thieves and murderers, Derek had chosen to continue on foot, leaving Vonda to pilot Nova in drone form. He had no intention to make the whole place erupt in shouts about the Messiah's arrival. Rothmere was getting closer, and Derek was on edge. As soon as they arrive, Isabel would no doubt rush to inform the woman in charge, Uriela Valen, of her belief that he might actually be the Messiah they'd been waiting for. And most likely, he would have also told her about his little revelation, that he was, in fact, a thief. What consequences that would bring for him remained to be seen. His instincts told him to be ready to run. For all he knew, they might decide to burn him at the stake as a heretic, or something along those lines. He would have avoided entering the city altogether, simply making sure the refugees reached it safely. But that wasn't an option. He needed information, and Rothmere was the only place to find it. He needed to track down someone who could help him understand the spheres and how they really worked. He also needed directions to the Forbidden Ruins, where the other Kolar node might be hidden. And if possible, he wanted an explanation for why this so-called Kashnar bore such a striking resemblance to his power armor. That last part wasn't high on the priority list, but it irritated him that he couldn't come up with a satisfying answer. He glanced at his companions walking beside him. Isabel and Tunga had been silent since they set out. Last night's conversation had left Derek in no mood to talk, and they had picked up on that, giving him space. Even the refugees behind them seemed to sense something was off, limiting their interactions to a few practical comments about the road ahead and what they would do once they reached Rothmere. He had no idea how Isabel and Tunga had processed the fact that he was a thief. To be honest, he wasn't even sure why he'd admitted it so openly. Not exactly a smart move. Now they'd be watching him, probably never trusting him again. Maybe he was just tired of the way they looked at him, like he was some kind of savior or benefactor. And at least when it came to Isabel, it had worked. She hadn't even spared him a glance that morning. Derek's attention was drawn to a large triangular stone at the side of the road. Its surface was etched with circular patterns, arranged in precise rows and connected by angular lines running parallel to each other. It looked, unmistakably, like a printed circuit board. He stopped in front of it and frowned. What the hell is this supposed to be? Isabel paused beside him. It's a protection rune. Derek rolled his eyes. Another foolish superstition. Really? Protection from what? Tunga's rough voice cut in. From beasts. Creatures twisted by magic fear these symbols. They do not come close. You're kidding me. Derek glanced between the two of them, searching for any hint of a joke, but both remained stone-faced. He shook his head. So what? A beast comes up, sees the pretty patterns and runs off terrified? Isabel shrugged. No one knows exactly why it works. We just know these ancient symbols keep them away. Stronger beasts can still get through. That's why towns have walls and watchtowers. But with these runes, attacks are far less frequent. And that's a fact. It made no sense that mere markings on a stone could keep those creatures away. Maybe there was more to these stones. Some kind of invisible force field, perhaps. Derek scratched his rough stubble. And how were they discovered? The ruins, Isabel said. Apparently these symbols are found near sacred ruins, though I've never seen them myself. Someone figured out that the beast stayed away from those areas because of the symbols. Derek scratched his chin. Guess not everyone on this planet is a complete idiot, after all. So you just took them from the ruins and hauled them all the way here? Isabel clenched her jaw and shot him a glare. No, we are not thieves of sacred relics. Our scholars managed to find this type of stone, cut it into the same shape, and replicate these strange inscriptions on it. Tunga sneered, his lip curling in disgust, and tapped the rune with the end of his staff. Walls and magic runes. These people don't know how to live with nature, so they lock themselves away and hope to stay safe. Isabel frowned at him. And what would you suggest to keep the elderly and children from being killed by magic-infused creatures every day? Shaman. Tunga slammed his staff into the ground. Only way to keep people safe is make them face beasts. Grow strong from fight. Strength brings safety. Not everyone is born to fight, Isabel replied. And even those who can't or won't fight still deserve to live. No one's born with a right to live, Tunga growled through clenched teeth. You take life. You keep it. Isabel shook her head, hands on her hips, and lips pressed into a thin line. Derek sighed and tapped the earpiece behind his ear. Vonda, can you pick up anything from this stone? A force field? A signal? Anything? No, Derek, nothing detectable from this altitude. I could descend for a closer scan if you wish. No, stay in the air, Derek said. If these stones are around every town, we'll have plenty of chances to study them later. Think they're hiding some kind of secret? Vonda asked. Could be. If they're emitting some kind of frequency that keeps the creatures away, maybe Nova can replicate it. I wouldn't mind finding a way to stop getting attacked by everything with a pulse. Good idea, Derek, she said. Tunga raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. You speak to your armor by touching your ear? Derek nodded. Yeah, you could say that. She's very smart. Thank you, Derek, Vonda said cheerfully in his earpiece. Tunga shook his head. Still don't get how something that ain't alive can talk. You sure it not be undead? I'm sure. But when you say undead, you mean walking corpses? Like, that's an actual thing in this world? Tunga stared at him seriously. When life sphere fall from sky and break, it spill power in world. Make things grow, heal wounds. But when touch dead thing, if sphere strong enough, it try heal that too. His breath caught for a moment. Unbelievable. Could the power of the spheres really go that far? Derek glanced between Tunga and Isabel. You're saying a life sphere can bring the dead back? Isabel cleared her throat. It doesn't exactly bring them back to life. It just makes them move again. But by then, they're nothing more than wild beasts, like anything else tainted by the sphere's energy. Derek nodded. They kept walking, the group of refugees trailing behind. Spheres didn't just vary in strength, their effects were wildly different, and the way they interacted with the world was insane. Just look at how they had affected Nova, enhancing the plasma cannon, the plasma blade, and even the central generator. If he studied them properly, he could probably predict how each type of sphere would interact with the power armor. Modify weapon damage, reinforce the armor, maybe even make Nova fly with him inside. And that could be just the beginning. The chatter behind them grew louder as Rothmere loomed closer. The path they were following curved gently uphill, the slope and dense foliage blocking their view of what lay ahead. But the growing smiles on the refugees' faces made it clear that their destination was very close. He turned to check on the group of survivors trudging along behind them. Elira walked alone a few meters back, her gaze locked straight ahead, her face unreadable. Maybe they'd find a way to help her in Rothmere. He didn't have much faith in the Church of Orbisar, but who else could they entrust her to? Derek glanced at Thomas, who immediately shot him a glare before turning away. The young man stepped up to Isabel. "My Lady Warden," he said with a small bow. "Rothmere is just ahead. Shall I go ahead and announce your arrival?" Isabel nodded. Yes, Thomas. Thank you. Let them know we're bringing refugees. Some are injured and all are hungry. They should prepare to receive them. Thomas bowed and dashed ahead. Derek watched him disappear around a bend. That boy's awfully loyal to you. Isabel's expression hardened. He's loyal to Orbisar. He follows his will. No. Derek smirked. I've seen the way he looks at you. He'd jump into a fire just to impress you. Isabel looked at him, raising an eyebrow. I don't know what you're trying to imply, and I don't care. I don't think you can truly understand what it means to have faith and be willing to do anything for what you believe in. Derek nodded. Can't argue with that. Faith means believing without proof. It's just a fancy way to get screwed over by the universe. He shot a sidelong glance at the warden. What's your plan for Elira? Isabel sighed. She is the only orphan from that small village. I'll request that the Church of Orbisar take her in as a novice. She'll have a place to stay and someone to look after her. Derek rolled his eye. And I suppose she'll end up as brainwashed as the rest of you? It's the same path I walked, Isabel replied. She'll be fine. So, being loyal to the church is the only way to hope for a decent life here? Isabel ignored the jab. No. There are other people who live differently. Tunga's tribe, the Nakori, have their own ways. Tunga nodded solemnly. We take good care of young ones. Isabel shot him a glare. The ones who survive, anyway. Tunga nodded again, unfazed. Exactly. Only those who prove strength to spirit of the beast are kept. Derek turned to him. And what happens to the others? Tunga shrugged. Usually eaten. By something or someone. Derek blinked. There were definitely worse options for little Elira. Can't imagine why people aren't lining up to join your tribe. Tunga scratched his head. I don't know either. Turning back to Isabel, Derek asked, So how did you end up joining the church? Had a sudden calling for Orbisar? The warden's gaze dropped. Not exactly. A powerful creature attacked our village, not too different from what happened to Elira. Oh, Derek said, suddenly feeling like an idiot. What kind of creature? Isabel frowned. My memories are blurry. I just remember claws, fangs, and the way it moved in the shadows. People were ripped apart before anyone could even see it. She hesitated for a moment, her voice quieter. Sometimes. I still have nightmares about it. Where were your warriors? Tunga asked, his tone sharp. They were out there, fighting. My parents among them. Isabel's grip tightened around the hilt of her sword, her knuckles turning white. They hid me in a basket and told me to stay quiet until they returned. All I could do was listen to their screams as they were torn apart. Derek's fists clenched. His eyes lingered on Isabel's pale dress and stoic expression. How many others had endured such suffering on this God-forsaken planet? How many needless deaths, fighting creatures that shouldn't even exist? Why leave these people to fend for themselves like this? Isabel turned to him, her voice steady but soft. The High Priestess Uriela Valen found me and saved me. She was the warden of the region then, as I am now. She arrived with soldiers, slew the beast, and took me in. Derek nodded, his lips pressing into a thin line. Her unwavering devotion to the church made sense now. She was grateful to those who had saved her life and given her a future. Devoted to them. Elira would likely face a similar fate. And as much as he hated it, she could end up in far worse hands. Tunga had just made that painfully clear. Derek, Vanda said, I'm detecting someone approaching from Rothmere, possibly a rider on horseback. You should see them in a few seconds. Let me know if you need Nova. Okay, thanks, Vanda, Derek muttered. He glanced at the others. Looks like we're about to have company. A lone rider on horseback. Any idea who it might be? Isabel nodded. Most likely, High Priestess Uriela sent someone to check if we're in urgent need of anything. Derek muttered. I thought we already sent Thomas ahead for that. Tunga frowned, tightening his grip on his staff. Isabel gave him a reassuring smile. I'm sure everything's fine. No need to worry. The thunder of galloping hooves shook the ground beneath their feet. The rider was closing in fast, clad in armor bearing an emblem Derek couldn't quite make out. The horse skidded to a stop nearby, its hooves kicking up a thin cloud of dust and gravel. Isabel smiled, though Tungas raised his staff and pointed it to the horseman. Derek swallowed. A chill ran down his spine. He had already seen what that damn staff could do. If Tunga lost his temper, things wouldn't end well. My Lady Warden, the soldier greeted her with a nod, sparing a sharp glance at Tunga. Derek stood back, hands in his pockets, watching the scene unfold. It was the kind of thing you'd see in an old holofilm. The emblem on the soldier's chest depicted a single eye radiating 7 beams of different colors, with an open book beneath it. Derek's chest tightened, the same 7 colors as the artifact. What were the odds that was just a coincidence? Greetings, Marin, Isabel said with a smile. If you've come to escort me, it's unnecessary. I can manage the last stretch on foot. She gestured toward the scattered refugees. But I'm sure some of our elders would be more than happy to skip at least this final stretch of dusty road. The soldier made a small bow. Glad to hear you are well. But that's not why I'm here. His smile vanished as he turned to Derek, pointing an accusing finger. I'm here for the false messiah. Shit. He hadn't expected things to spiral this fast. How the hell had this guy figured out he could be the messiah? He didn't even have his power armor. Someone must have tipped him off, given him a description detailed enough for this Marin to recognize him on sight. And there was only one person who could have done it. That bastard Thomas. Isabel's eyes widened, darting between Derek and Marin. She seemed unable to process what was happening. The soldier casually rested his hand on the handle of a spiked mace hanging from his saddle and waited patiently. His eyes were locked on Derek. The calm and confident way Marin carried himself was that of a seasoned and dangerous soldier. Who told you this? Isabel asked. I mean, there is no false messiah to arrest. She shot a quick glance at Derek out of the corner of her eye. I'm here to confer with High Priestess Uriela Valen and try to understand what's going on. Arresting someone at this stage would be at the very least premature, if not outright wrong. Marin sighed. Thomas, your loyal squire, told us everything already. He assured me I'd find you traveling with the village refugees, a jungle savage, and a man claiming to be the Messiah. The High Priestess Uriela herself is informed and ordered me to arrest him immediately. He fixed Derek with a cold, unwavering stare. Vanda's voice crackled in Derek's earpiece. Derek, I'm detecting energy spikes in your vicinity. Is everything okay? Derek swallowed, his mouth dry. This wasn't looking good. Surely Isabel would step in and clear up this ridiculous misunderstanding. There must be some mistake, Isabel began. Thomas must have said, No mistake, Marin interrupted sharply. He was very clear that you, Warden, have also been deceived by this man. Isabel's mouth fell open, her eyes wide in shock, unable to muster a response. That son of a... Derek bit his tongue. No more arguing. Marin straightened in his saddle. You're coming with me. He reached for a rope tied to his saddle, the end fashioned into a noose. Derek took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. Was this seriously happening? These backwater zealots had dragged him, Derek Steele, into some ridiculous religious drama. Did they really think he'd just stand there like a docile mule and let them tie him up with some shitty rope? His fists clenched so tight, his nails nearly tore into his palms. He glanced at Isabel. Her expression was tense, betraying a hesitation he didn't like. Torn between believing he was the Messiah and her loyalty to Uriela, would she just stand by while they dragged him away? The noose swayed gently in Marin's hands. The soldier watched him with a half smile, as if daring him to try something to make things more interesting. Derek's blood boiled. He couldn't afford to lose control, not without Nova. "Derek," Vonda said, her voice laced with concern. "Your heart rate is spiking. What's wrong?" Derek pulled his hands from his pockets and tapped the earpiece. "Let's just say we've got a bit of a situation." "I'm on my way," Vonda replied. "ETA 6 minutes. Hang in there, Derek." Marin's eyes narrowed, his frown deepening. "You're thinking about doing something stupid. It's written all over your face. Trust me, it won't end well for you." He stepped closer. Derek shrugged. "That's just my normal face, and doing something stupid is pretty much how I do things. No need to get violent, though. We could try talking about it first." "I have direct orders from High Priestess Valen," Marin said, taking another step closer. "You'll speak after I've arrested you, as instructed." Tunga stepped forward, planting his staff firmly in the ground beside Derek, his expression fierce. "You make bad choice coming here alone, soldier." Marin scowled. "Stay out of this, savage. This doesn't concern you." Derek sighed. "Gotta say, Isabel, love your religion. So open-minded and welcoming. Just as I expected." The warden stiffened, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her eyes. Her grip tightened on her sword hilt, as though seeking strength, but her gaze kept darting from Marin to Derek and back again. She had never been this shaken before, not even when that man had nearly killed her. That fierce gaze, the one she held even in the face of death, where had it gone now? She looked completely paralyzed, unable to argue back or make a decision. If he didn't do something, this wouldn't end well. Derek raised his hands in mock surrender. "Look, buddy, I don't know what Thomas told you, but I've got zero interest in being anyone's messiah. You can believe me on that. I'm just here to escort these poor souls to the city, and then I'll be out of your way immediately. You have my word." Marin grabbed his mace, leveling it at Derek. "Enough talk. Last warning. Come quietly, or I'll use force." The air around the mace shimmered with a faint, milky haze. Derek's stomach sank. This guy wasn't bluffing. Without Nova, he'd be dead in one hit. Hell, even a glancing blow would be enough. His only option was to cooperate, follow along, and hope that whoever had sent Marin was a little more reasonable. Not that expecting rationality from people who believed in gods, spirits, and magical nonsense was a winning bet. Derek opened his mouth to say something, but he didn't get the chance. A sharp whistle sliced through the air. A wave of heat washed over his skin, and a hot gust ruffled his hair. Derek barely had time to turn and see what was happening. Tunga's fireball shot past him like a missile, hurtling straight toward Marin.